Hello, and welcome to my PK's rebalancing playthrough. This will be the second one total, and as you can see, I'm not talking while this is recording. I figured that I might have a few small issues surviving, so I would record the first installment before I ended up talking, because it gets a little dull talking about the same stuff during the first 30 minutes or so. If you keep dying and you keep talking about surviving in the dark, it's just not the same. As you can see, I'm trying to show off my character and my world settings. I'm starting in a house in a burning building as a hobo with the traits that was shown. Sometimes I go a little too fast, but that's fine. This is just me playing the game as I would if I were just playing on my own. In fact, I'd slow down a little to show people things, or at least explain what I'm doing, or give myself time to. So, the first thing I did was try to run. I talked to the NPC to see what they had and if they would come with me, and I grabbed some strings and a weapon, which in this case is a heavy stick. That's not much of a weapon. It's better than your hands, and it's heavy enough to smash a fridge, which is exactly what we're going to be using it for when we get a chance. I'm here assigning standard letters to my objects. I got lucky and found a multivitamin right away. I would have taken that man's Adderall, except I didn't really have anything to trade it for, and the fire is right there in front of me. As you will shortly see, he explodes upon death, so whatever he had was a gun. But this is just me looting the house. I'm taking the mayonnaise because I want the bottle. I'm taking the long strings, and this part's important. As a hobo, I don't start with footwear, handwear, or headwear. I need all of those things. So here I am making them for warmth, and in the case of footwear, so that I don't take penalties going through sharp windows and over rocks or whatever. Sort of a function I feel they could probably do a little more with. But, it would probably require more hard coding, which I don't do. I really should learn, and I was learning for a while. I got bored of it. I'm sure I'll come back to it eventually, but whether or not I'll be able to do anything with the game itself, anyone guess. Now, needing warmth aside, I need a knapsack almost more than I need those pants. So what I did was make a knapsack out of them. Much less encumbrance than the sling pouch. I need to be able to fight or at least flee, so that's important to me. Although, I wouldn't blame you if you decided to go with the makeshift sling instead. Not my style, especially since I started in a town. Actually started in my own little one-stop town that I've made. It's the same layout, but all of the buildings are randomized. Unfortunately, the warehouse and the gas station are pretty stock. There's not a whole lot of variation to either of those. Right here, what I'm doing is just trying to display what you can do with advanced inventory. As you can see, it really isn't worth it. I can just pick the stuff up. And in fact, I left a rag behind, so I had to go and grab it. But 4 rags in one pot, you can make a pot helmet, which is, I think, 75 coverage, 55 coverage. And it's much, much better than the turbans are. But if you read, I actually didn't put it on yet. 2 turbans counts as 1 helmet. But if you put on the pot helmet after taking a turban off, you can put the second one back on. It's not exactly an ideal arrangement, but it certainly works. It's something I've learned over time. Now, as I've said, the purpose of this mod is to showcase the mod. Purpose of the mod to make the game a little more interesting and harder, but mostly more interesting. The purpose of this playthrough is to showcase the mod. I've seen there's a lot of misinformation, old information, just in general, there seems to be a certain amount of dislike on the mod based on theoretical principles and, philosophical philanthropy. There are people who dislike the mod on the theories they have about how games should be made and designed and balanced, and that's not exactly okay with me, especially since I do want it to be liked. Now, here, I've actually found a big book of first aid, which is great. My first aid is currently 2, which is what I start with, but the big book of first aid is going to bring me to 3, which is going to allow me to craft first aid kits, which is just peachy with me. It's something I don't do enough, and it's something that needs to be rebalanced, but until then, I do want this big book of first aid so I can make this stuff. So, mark it on my map for later. It's worth doing. But as you can see, I'm just running around looting things. I have my own set of preferences. I'm looking for food, I'm looking for storage items, I'm looking for armor. I'm grabbing myself a rubber hose, which is used for siphoning fuel. And I would make a makeshift knife. It's actually a really good weapon, but you do need some survival for that, and by the time I get there, well, you'll see. But the aquarium fertilizer, as I've been trying to point out to everybody, will make you thirsty, it will hurt your health, but it will also remove some ambient radiation, and it's not something you need to consume offhand, but it's worth having around, at least one. Here I see where I can't do the helmet and the turbines, but I can put the turbine back on after. It's nonsense. But, yeah. So far it's a pretty good start. A wood axe is a pretty solid early game weapon as far as weapons go. I can ball bun me my way through all sorts of early game monsters with that thing. I've got the pot helmet, I've got the cotton hat, which is amazing. I need the warmth after all. As you can see, it's a fairly warm day to begin with. I've noticed there's some variation in the day 1 temperatures. This one is a fairly warm one. Metal tongs. Those, I do believe those are just for forging, but they're so rare I took it with me, despite its size. Now, there's not a whole lot else to talk about here. You can observe me just loading up on clothing and loot and having a pretty easy time of it. The monsters are all drawn to the fire. The monsters are drawn to cars. They're not bothering me, and I stayed off the main street of this little town. Not that there's not a lot of zombies everywhere in this town. There's actually quite a bit. It seems that most of the people who died here stayed here. So, but still, I've been debating taking away that gas station and maybe putting in a less overpowered one, like a standard gas station, but this is marked as the rural gas station. It has less gas, and for everyone else except the early game survivor, it's really not a big deal to have a makeshift single shot shotgun thing going on. So, not a big deal here. And the bar has less liquor than a liquor store, and is pretty factual as far as towns go. Now, up until this point, I'm doing pretty good with the loot. I don't have to leave too much behind me that I want to keep, but I'm not finding any backpacks, or any duffel bags, or military sacks, or anything. Find a cell phone, which is nice. Cell phones are inefficient, but if you need light, you need light, and they're much better than torches are. So mostly what I'm prioritizing is just stuff I know is going to be useful to me in the short term. There's not a whole lot of combat, there's not a whole lot of stuff to talk about here, guys. But the reason I like to play the mod is because it is so easy just to skip everything. And there are just easy ways to cheese the core game, or even the mod for that matter. It's not like it's just the mod that has things that are easy to get around, or the core game. So the mod adds a nice bit of tempo change. It adds difficulty, it adds increasing difficulty, which is nice, and it adds a little more variety. I get killed about 25-30% of the time by something I didn't see coming, which makes me more apt to prepare for more in the future. So, I keep finding all these things that make me want to stay in one place. Tailoring kits, and backpacks, and all this vodka, and pots, and... oh boy, look, our first enemy. And that's right, I have a wood axe, so what did he think he was gonna do? Let's smash his corpse, and take his stuff, and... gee, I wish I could do something with that Chardonnay. I know. I think I'm gonna stay here and just craft all my stuff. And you can see me trying to make that decision right now. There it is, right there. That's the oven. I've got to take the pot out of the oven so that I know when the oven is empty. And it needs fuel. So you can smash up a couple chairs, a couple tables. And we put them in the oven. And now we can light it on fire. And now we have our own fire to see with. Next we need rags, which is freely available in any house, but we don't want those because that's a little too easy to see me through that. But we can take these rags from this armchair. I think you can see where this is going. I think I'm going to leave this in because it just shows early game crafting, the grinding. And up until level 3, it's pretty simple. In fact, I would say that whether you start in a shelter or in the middle of a town, you can get to level 3 pretty easily. You need a couple of sheets, you need, well, let's say, what is in a shelter? There's 8 windows, so there's 16 sheets. You can probably get to 3.5 or 4 with that, and probably even further if you really stretch it. Anyway, the best way to do it is to get everything together at once, to cut it up when you have dexterity, or when you have the most dexterity so that you get more rags. Seems like a small distinction, but it's important. And then you want to craft hand wraps, which are easy and you can disassemble them until you get to level 1 sewing. Then you want to go and craft arm warmers because they require the least amount of materials until you get to level 2. Then you want to, if you can, have survival skill 1, which allows you to craft a balaclava, which is the least time consuming. It grants the least amount of experience at that level. It's from a ridiculously small amount, but the time you save not crafting 30-minute pairs of undies, great. And balaclavas can be useful if you don't have mouth protection after all. There's nothing like a good scary mask, right? But you can see me here, I'm grinding my fab up. My fabrication, I'm going to level it up to level 2. There's no particular reason I want it at level 2, just that it's easy to do, and I have all night and all the equipment I need. So, shoulder straps are difficulty 1, and the fishing hooks are difficulty 0. So, there it is. What am I doing now? Got my sling, which is a basic ranged weapon. Throwing things, a lot of people like to throw them. I do not. Part of the reason is I don't find it useful. Other people seem to find it more useful than I do. I like it when it's at a higher level, but at low levels, I'm not even hitting raccoons for enough damage to make it worthwhile. As an alcoholic, I have to make sure to stay liquored up. So everything I do is on an 80 to 90 minute time scale. 60 even, because at about 60 minutes you lose your bonus for drinking. Morale bonus, that is. And then at 90 you start to withdraw from alcohol. It's better than it used to be. You used to be able to tell the time based on when you went into alcohol withdrawal. It was ridiculous. Better, but that doesn't make it good now. And I mean, gosh, if you start hallucinating and you're at night or underground, it's still just as painful. And even worse because the noise that you would see on the screen was at least useful. or interesting. So here you see me crafting basic supplies for my body. Typically I make 2 pairs of foot wraps, 2 turbans, and then a bunch of arm wraps. And then I'll make 1 pair of leg warmers and 1 pair of arm warmers and craft the rest. You do want to carry a towel around if you're me, because we want to focus on keeping our morale up. Alcohol has the advantage of keeping your focus extra high if you keep on top of it. But if you let your morale slip, then alcohol is only going to be a disadvantage for you. So, it's important to keep up on it. When you're doing something like this, hanging inside in a small area, you want to make sure that you keep the zombies away. You don't want one smacking on the wall and attracting friends. And you don't want to worry about your scent. I have this fire, which is going to help a little with the scent. But I mean, if one were to wander too close to this window, they would smash it and then my day would be ruined. So, Under the Hood. Under the Hood is a magical book. I'm sure everyone knows about it, but if you don't, it allows you to level your mechanics up. In fact, it is one of the best ways to level your mechanic up, and one of the only ways to level your mechanics up to 3. Level 3 mechanics allows you to freely add and remove items from a car, which lets you level up your mechanic skill with enough time and patience and food. Food is ironically the biggest hang-up there, although the time wasted is considerable. But I mean, with a supercar, you can do anything anyway, so. Here, I believe I'm scavenging for leather. Yep, and I want to make some leather armor boots. I do not wish to cut up those fitting leather pants, so there it is. The leather armor boots, they provide a acid and environmental protection bonus over the simple pair of boots, and they beat the heck out of not wearing boots at all or wearing filthy boots. I try to stay away from them. They work great with the alcoholic character, the filthy clothing, because the morale penalty negates the only bonus of alcohol. Alcohol is just a very negative thing in the game. It has the advantage of giving you some more focus, but I mean, I have the spiritual trait in 6 minutes in a book, and my morale is fantastic anyway. It's one of those things. So you see me wearing another knapsack. I think at this point I'm considering going outside to level up my survival. Remember I had the outdoor adventure book? I would have read it if I still had it, but I don't. So I'm going to contemplate running off to the forest to fix that. As you can see, I was seen by the little ankle biter, which is woe and folly. But let's take him inside and take him down. Close the doors, smash his corpse, take his stuff. A lot of people like to butcher the corpse because they want the survival experience. Smashing should be faster because it doesn't grant any experience at all, in my opinion. Also, it'd be nice if it took a little less stamina, but, I mean, you have to pulp a corpse. I don't know if people actually realize just how hard that can be. The flesh is weak until you have to destroy it, then it's pretty strong. So anyway, dropped my stuff. I've been very careful about how I'm doing this because I do not want a problem. That guy already saw me, but, I mean, I can close these curtains at least. And we can bring him back over here. Yep, a friend of his saw me too, but that's okay. I have 3 types of normal zombies. Standard one, which is light buffs over the core game. A faster one, which is slightly faster and weaker than that one. And a stronger one, which is slightly stronger and slower. It's just enough to provide a little bit of variation in the experience when you're weak. Occasionally, I found that a zombie is quite resilient, and I know that it's the strong type, or number 3 is what I've called them. Because I also have that same setup for children, tough zombies, fat zombies. So, it works out, and I actually do it for bees and a couple other critters too. If you've noticed, you've noticed. If you haven't, you haven't. So here I am emptying my item stacks so I can try to have a reasonable encumbrance. I want this reasonable encumbrance because I may be fighting something out there. And trust me, early game, zombies are far from the most intimidating thing we'll fight. They're just the most frequent. Like a bear or something will really have a field day with my face. And that's a natural critter. Fire here. Not utilized enough by everyone, it seems. Even though it's been heavily nerfed since Zero C, it's not that bad. And early game like this, the chances of running into a zombie that have ammo on them, pretty slim. Just make sure you keep checking the bodies, because the ammo might explode if you're in the middle of an attack and the zombie dies to the fire damage instead of your axe. Or if he dies to your axe and then you have to wait till your turn to come around to check. You want to be careful and you weigh the risks. The standard zombies, not a big deal, especially with my lowered item spawn count. I don't need the fire by any means, though. I mean, I have a wooden axe. This is more than satisfying. I do want to pulp the corpses, though, because I do not know how long I'm going to be here. So I take what I want, and I leave the pulp bodies, and at this point, I think I spot a friend, do I? No. He's coming, though. I found a moose. He's hanging out about 50 tiles away to the south. No, he can't see me right away, but that doesn't mean he can't wander himself up. See, here's a moose. And if he does, he will eviscerate me, or at least force me to start a fire or yell at him, and you don't want to yell at him, because the zombies will come. We're right next to town after all. It's not as populated as a huge city, but it is still fairly populated. The game seems to generate the zombies based on how many houses or buildings there are, not based on any metric for city size. Or maybe it does both, because size 1 cities, the one stop sign cities, so to speak, those cities will generate significant amounts of zombies on occasion. Oh boy. Don't talk to me about those 4 houses with hundreds of zombies hanging out on them. But we're just gonna go north just to be safe. I do not need moose coming after me. So yes, I just go searching for these berries or fruits or whatever. A couple of the items are useful, like, the herbs are nice, the fruits are nice, eggs are nice, and glass bottles will be craftable into Molotovs, which are definitely nice. Molotovs are a great early game weapon. In fact, I heartily approve of the nerfing that they've done to them over the experimentals. So, my job seems to be done, so now it's just getting back in without being harassed to death. Not quite that simple. So, what made me want to start this playthrough now is actually I just got done working 8 days in a row at my job. I don't particularly like my job. My job's not particularly hard or stimulating, but after 8 days in a row of doing my boss's job because he went on vacation, I'm done. Oh, hey, that's right, this happened. Now this is interesting. Bloated Zombies, not a new enemy, not particularly dangerous, but he's going to poison you under most circumstances. It's just something that's going to happen. Best you can do is try to goad him into exploding early and then running out of that way. As you can see, my stats went right to hell, which is a shame, but we all came out of it eventually. And with nothing else alive to bother me, all I have to do is walk back inside, and as you can see, my stats have already recovered with the use of alcohol and everything. So it's not all bad. But yes, now that I'm done with this 8-day marathon, I can take a day off and relax, and oh boy, I want to go run today. I wanted to do 3 miles, a 5K in fact, but I think I made it 1.5 miles, and I was like, you know what, why am I doing this to myself? I'm not going to do that. And so here I am now instead. Much, much more agreeable to my body. So now I'm just going to craft some more. I want to get to level 3. Level 3 is about when the investment of time rises quite a bit, and when a lot of the most useful early game items come available. If I had my way, it would be 4, so that I can craft leather chaps, because they're pretty good protection for the legs. And I think at level 5 you unlock iron greaves, which we're going to be doing later, if I remember. But yeah. So at level 3 I can make a backpack, I can make a hoodie, I can make a sleeveless duster, and I can make leather arm guards. Now, van braces are good, and they're very low encumbrance, so if you are a shooty player, you should consider the van braces, because they are less than 10 encumbrance, which means you can wear them and arm warmers and still not be encumbered. But anyone else, or anyone who considers any sort of melee, being able to block with your leather arm guards is invaluable. Oh boy, is it invaluable. In fact, you're going to see us make the change to metal at some point, I think. I have to consider it. The encumbrance is worth it sometimes, but they're just... the metal arm guards are not as durable as you would think they are. The leather ones seem to outweigh them in that regard. In fact, I think I made a special custom one where you actually just kind of hammer metal onto leather as a compromise. We'll see what happens. But I definitely approve of blocking with your arms. It just adds an extra layer of protection in addition to your block skill and the dodge skill, which seems to be overpowered at the moment. Or easy to level at the moment. Each one of these balaclavas takes 5 minutes. Like I said before, the bonus for drinking lasts for 60, and you take 90 minutes to start withdrawing from alcohol. So at 5 minutes, I can make, 12 of them before I have to drink again to keep my morale focus up? It's all a science to me, especially early game like this. So we're all crafting and everything's going well. I will be making more videos, and hopefully I will be talking while playing. I think that's the way to go, because things are a little more natural that way. Not particularly enjoying making up conversation without playing, but what are you gonna do? I do have one final surprise coming, I think, but after I get this, I'm going to be making a knife spear. Knife spear, as everyone knows, is a fantastic early game weapon. It's very useful for the poke. The wood axe is providing a good bit of competition, but the knife spear I think is going to win out. It's faster, it has the special reach function, and the wood axe is so heavy for no reason. Well, not no reason, but you know. So here we go, I'm having a good time, and... Zombie, he's a little wounded, not bothering me though. No, I wonder why he's got a few wounds. I don't think it's from an NPC. That's not what I'm hinting at. But so now we've got our backpacks. What I'm going to do here is make 2 backpacks, and I'm going to carry one on my person while wearing one. This is going to allow me to swing on the second one if I need to, and it's going to provide me with the best encumbrance to storage ratio here. I'm going to have a leather vest, a sleeveless duster, which are going to protect my body pretty well. The cloth duster, at least, not as durable as I would like it to be. With Kevlar fittings, it gets a little better, but the leather duster, much more durable. It's still not going to withstand heavy combat, but it's going to be a lot better about heavy combat. So we're gonna work up to that. Unfortunately, it's like 7 tailoring, which is some ridiculously high number. But whatever. The leather vest is a good early game weapon, and it does have a little bit of storage. It's perfectly worth your time. So, an undershirt, a hoodie, a backpack, the sleeveless duster, and the leather vest are my fairly standard early game items. The messenger bags I'm certainly going to consider, but I want to be saving room for a back holster, which is level 1 tailoring and level 1 marksmanship. That's actually a fairly tall order for me early game. The best way to level marksmanship is going to be to read. The second best way is going to be crafting a bunch of sling ammo and slinging at like an amoeba or something. The amoebas have what's called absorb, which means they will suck up any items they're on top of in order to regenerate health or gain more health. So you let them run over a bunch of items, a corpse or two, and then you sling some stuff at them. You level up your marksman, and then you can make your holsters. Okay. So what's left to make? I think the leather arm guards are one of the last things I actually need to make, and then a hoodie. But I'm accosted by Carl Joseph here. We want to stop crafting to see what he's doing. He asked me to piss off. We will not be pissing off. We will, however, be aggressing him. So let's pick up our shotgun. Let's wield it, and let's pop him in the head. And Carl Joseph is dead because I hit him in, I guess it was the head. I popped him like a cherry melon. And he has a hoodie. Very convenient. He was trying to pick up the wood axe because he didn't have a good weapon of his own. I wonder if he dropped it or something. If they spawn with too much stuff, they will drop it, and it seems to be pretty random what they drop. Kind of like you will drop something if one of your items gets destroyed or whatever. So, I am not a cannibal. I don't really play cannibalistic characters. It seems they're pretty popular with some people. It's not something I'm opposed to, quote unquote, but it's not something I'm going to feel the need to seek out. We do want to finish making our leather arm guards. And yes, friends did notice that I shot a shotgun in town. But as you can see, they don't seem too capable of finding me, which is just fine. I do not believe I've resolved that problem, but then I don't believe I have to. As I've just demonstrated, spending 5-10 minutes crafting some leather stuff while they try to get in, they are clearly not strong or organized. Not a big deal. So I'm going to finish my organizing and move on out. I do want to move. It's not in my interest to stay at this point. We're going to take our messenger bags, our soap. I did forget to make a washboard, but I'm going to leave you here. Alright, guys.